All right, let's jump right into this explainer. Today, we're unpacking a source that literally challenges the absolute bedrock of modern Western civilization. I'm talking about the very concept of private ownership. We're looking at a deeply thought-provoking text titled, "Private Ownership is an Obstacle to the Ascension of Human Civilization." It's a bold claim, right? It presents a profound counter-narrative to how we structure our daily lives and our entire global economy, basically arguing that what we've always considered natural might actually be the exact thing holding us back. To wrap our heads around this, we're going to break it down into 6 parts: Locke and private ownership, outdated ideas in traffic, the cost of selfishness, dimensions of cosmic civilization, the non-ownership model, and finally, rethinking human nature. Let's get into it. Starting off with part 1, Locke and private ownership, or the 400-year-old foundation. So to really get where the author is coming from, we have to look back at John Locke, specifically his famous Second Treatise of Civil Government. Locke basically said that private ownership is the absolute foundation of human civilization and human morality. He asked questions that honestly still sound pretty much like common sense to us today. Like, if your wealth isn't yours, why would you even try to work hard? If your kids aren't legally yours to raise, would you educate them? Locke's whole argument was that without private wealth and strong biological family ties, human motivation and morality would just completely collapse. And that sets up the core tension of the text. The author totally acknowledges that Locke was a brilliant thinker. In fact, without his treatise, the powerful Western civilization we know today simply wouldn't exist. But, and this is a big but, the text forces us to ask a difficult question. Can ideas that were game changers 400 years ago still work for a highly advanced, evolving human civilization today? That perfectly tees up part 2, outdated ideas and traffic, the carriage and the automobile era. The author drops a really vivid metaphor here to explain how even the greatest ideas have an expiration date. Picture a master carriage driver. This person is incredibly skilled at managing horses, right? But no matter how good they are, those skills absolutely do not translate to the traffic rules of our modern automobile era. The source is arguing that Locke's framework is basically that carriage driver. It was brilliant for its time, for sure, but it's just fundamentally unsuited for the complex traffic rules of our world today. Which brings us to part 3, the cost of selfishness, the toll of private ownership. The author argues that Locke's entire framework relies on humans being inherently selfish, and the text calls this a lower-dimensional viewpoint that is seriously costing us. Far from being the bedrock of morality, the source explicitly blames private ownership for generating societal conflicts and causing wars. It goes even further, framing it as the main culprit behind squandering our natural resources, directly causing deforestation, desertification, pollution, and pushing us toward ecological collapse. The text takes a super firm stance here. If we don't abolish private ownership, the future of sustainable human development isn't just looking bad, it's a cause for complete despair. So, how do we escape this despair? That brings us to part 4. Dimensions of cosmic civilization, a higher perspective. To solve this, the author shifts our view from just human society to a literal cosmic scale. The text introduces this wild cosmological framework, claiming there are exactly 20 distinct types of cosmic civilizations out there in the universe, and each of them operates on entirely different foundational patterns and dimensions. Now here is how those 20 dimensions tie back to Locke. The source states that the more advanced a cosmic civilization gets, the further it moves away from human selfishness and this whole concept of private ownership. The author points out that if we only look at ourselves, we literally can't even imagine these higher dimensions. But from the perspective of a highly advanced civilization, that selfishness that Locke called a law of nature is entirely rejected. They just don't operate that way. Let's bring this back down to Earth with part 5, the non-ownership model, a 14-year Earth experiment. Okay, I know cosmic dimensions can sound a little abstract, but the text grounds this in reality by detailing a 14-year experiment run by an organization called Lifechonyon. They've been actively testing a non-ownership model, and to be clear, the text strictly defines this as being totally distinct from both private and public ownership. It's its own thing. They claim this model replicates the patterns of those advanced cosmic civilizations. The results? Well, the author reports that over 14 years, letting go of selfishness has actually helped people feel way less anxiety and experience a whole lot more joy and wonder in life. When we compare these two directly, it starkly contrasts Locke's ideas with the realities seen in these experimental communities, which they call the second home and the 1,000-year world. The text basically labels Locke's assumptions as primitive or animalistic, because in the experiment, the reality flipped. Even without private wealth, people were doing diligent, shared work. Without exclusive biological ties to the kids, the community still collectively and willingly educated them. And without traditional possessive marriages, they observed deep mutual respect between men and women. It totally upends Locke's core argument. And this leads perfectly into part 6, Rethinking Human Nature, the Why River Oranges. So, if humans are naturally selfish, like Locke said, how on earth did a 14-year experiment like this even work? Well, the author explains this by arguing that human nature follows a cosmic holographic theory. That basically means we possess humane, animalistic, and divine traits all at the exact same time. To picture this, the source uses a famous agricultural metaphor about the Why River. If you plant an orange tree south of the river, you get sweet oranges. But take that exact same tree and plant it north of the river, the harsh environment turns them into sour trifoliate oranges. The source argues impartially that just like soil changes a fruit, our socioeconomic environment changes our behavior. Private ownership is just the soil that allows our selfish nature to grow. Change the soil, and our selfless, divine nature blooms instead. Which brings us to the author's ultimate mind-bending conclusion. Private ownership isn't the foundation of our growth, it's an obstacle to it. According to the text, we've had it completely backward all along. Genuine individuality doesn't come from hoarding stuff. It arises from selflessness, and true self-discovery, that only unfolds through self-abandonment. I want to leave you with this really provocative paradox straight from the text. To have everything, must one possess nothing? It's a huge question, right? It really invites us to look past our 400-year-old societal norms and wonder if reaching the ultimate ascension of human civilization means we have to completely redefine what it means to own our world. Thank you so much for joining me on this explainer, and definitely keep exploring those big ideas.